Hello everybody, welcome back to the Medical Projects YouTube channel. If you are new around here, my name is Olivia and I'm a third year medical student at King's College London, and here on the Medical Projects YouTube channel we create tons of content to assist you with getting your dream spot at medical school, and I give you all the insider tips and tricks to ensure you get your spot, and I let you know what being a medical student is really like. So if you do like the sound of that, do make sure you have clicked the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified every time we post, and do make sure you follow us on all of our social media links because we absolutely love hearing from you guys and are happy to answer any questions you might have. So for today's video I am already sweating profusely, and I don't know if that's because it is a mega heat wave at the moment or if I'm just really nervous about this, but I'm going to be answering some UCAT questions on camera for you guys. So it's UCAT season, so instead of enjoying the sunshine outside, a lot of you will be revising at your desk. The UCAT exam, it just, you know, it kind of sucks, but we just have to get through it and we're going to get through it together. Now we've made tons of videos about the UCAT exam, so do make sure you check them all out. And also before we start this video, I do want to make you aware of two fantastic courses we have on offer at the moment. We have the UCAT crash course, which is a 6-hour live interactive online crash course where we teach you all the tips and techniques to get through the UCAT exam and get a really high score. And if you want to absolutely perfect your examination technique and hit those super high marks, we also offer a masterclass version, and that is an incredible resource for you guys and will really give you the edge on the exam. So make sure you check those both out if you're interested. But for today's video I thought I would answer a few UCAT questions on camera for you. I'm not going to be doing situational judgment because we've created a whole video on that, so make sure to check it out. But I'm going to do some questions from the other 4 sections and explain to you how I got the answer and introduce some techniques that I suggest you implement yourself. So without further ado, let's put me under pressure, and I'm hoping I'm going to get the right answers, and let's get on with the video. So we're going to kick things off with a lot of people's least favourite section in the UCAT exam, and that is the verbal reasoning section. And this section basically requires you to read a passage of text between 200 to 300 words, and then you have to answer either true, false or can't tell questions or short statement answer questions, and you have to do that in 2 minutes. So you have 2 minutes to read the passage of text and answer 4 corresponding questions. So I'm going to have a bash. So I've got a question here. Excellent. It is about history. First thing I notice about this question is that it is a true, false or can't tell question, and my biggest tips for these questions is to use the scanning technique, and what this entails is basically scanning for the keywords in the question and then looking for them in the text. So immediately I notice that our keywords here are between the years 600 to 750 and a gradual decline in the number of missionary expeditions. So that is what I'm going to be looking for in the text. So let's have a scan. Okay, so I can see the years 600 to 750, so I'm going to hone in on this sentence and see what it says. So it says, also saw a great increase in missionary expeditions to the west, but the question says that there was a gradual decline in the number of missionary expeditions to the west. Therefore, I can already very quickly say that the answer is false because it contradicts what is seen in the text. What you need to remember with true, false, can't tell questions is that if it is true, the passage directly confirms what's being asked in the question. If it is false, the passage directly contradicts what's being asked in the question, and if it's can't tell, it means that there's insufficient evidence in the passage to draw a conclusion. So I'm going to move on to our next verbal reasoning question, and this is an example of type 2 style questions in verbal reasoning, and these ones require you to read the passage in a bit more detail because you have a multiple choice format for your answers. So I'm going to look in the passage and see which one of the following statements is true. So I'm going to be looking to see if I can see any of the keywords in the passage and see if I can confirm any of these statements. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for its own army and police force first of all. So I can see in the first paragraph, without an army, police force or any state apparatus, the papacy looked to a new source of protection. So the papacy didn't have its own dedicated army and police force, so we can rule that one out. It's definitely not going to be that one. I can see that in paragraph 2, recognizing the attempts to stop imperial interference would be futile, Gregory the Great decided to separate the papacy from the empire. I'm going to put a question mark next to that one because I don't think it's as clear as the first option. I'm going to look at option C, so Gregory the First visited Constantinople. Constantinople as a papal apocrisiary. So let's have a look for that one. So I'm going to be looking for my keywords again, so having a scan, and I can see that in paragraph 2 it says the traditional view asserts that when attending as a papal apocrisiary to Constantinople, Gregory I realised how firmly entrenched imperial history, ideology and practice had become there. So that is a mouthful for starters, but I can see that indeed this is the correct answer because he visited it as a papal apocrisiary. I have butchered every single word in that paragraph and question, but I can clearly see that this is true. It is confirmed in the text, and so I don't even need to worry about option D because that one is obviously true, and I don't need to worry about whether B is true or not. So I'm going to go with option C. So now I'm going to move on to the decision making section of the UCAT exam. This is section 2 and it consists of a multitude of different questions. The one I'm going to answer today is one about a logical puzzle. So we call these logical puzzles / Einstein problems, and it's basically where you're given a lot of information that's presented in a slightly confusing manner and you have to deduce the correct answer from all this information that you're given. And the way I recommend you approach these questions is by using a table. So you might be given a table and you should fill that in to find the correct answer, or you might not be given one, in which case I suggest you draw one out. So let's get on with this question and see if we can tackle it together. So we have 5 friends are going for dinner together but not sure whether to go to Jack's Diner or Ben's Cafe. They all have specific things they want and have made a table comparing the 2 places, but a cup of coffee was spilt on the page. Wow, they really are doing the most to decide where they want to go for dinner. They do, however, remember this, and we are given a list of statements. Which of the following statements must be true? So the way I like to tackle these questions is I simply work through the statements in order and fill out as much information as I can, and then I keep checking back to the statements in the answers so I can check if I've already found the answer. And the reason for that is sometimes you will find the answer is quite apparent from very early on in decision making and it doesn't require you to finish filling out the table. So we want to save as much time as possible because for decision making we have approximately 66 seconds per question. Let's start with statement 1. So at Jack's, the chicken is half the price of the wraps. So we don't have a column for the chicken yet, but we know that the wraps are £16. £16? That is daylight robbery. I would go to Ben's based off of that price alone, but you know, if you're wanting to dine at Jack's, you're going to be out of pocket. We know that the price of the wraps is £16 and we know chicken is half the price of the wraps, therefore the price of the chicken is £8. So already I can fill in a missing column here, so I'm going to tick that just so I know I've answered it. I'm going to move on to statement 2, which is the price of the pizza at Ben's is the same as the chicken's price at Jack's. So we know that the chicken's price at Jack's is £8, therefore we know the cost of the pizza at Ben's is also going to be £8. So we can fill that in here, nice and simple. So we're going to check that. So statement 3, the pizza at Jack's is 25% more expensive than Ben's. Of course it is, because Jack's is doing the most to rip people off. Come on, we've just been in a pandemic, Jack. Right, so I know that the cost of the pizza at Ben's is £8. To increase that by 25% brings us to £10, so the cost of pizza at Jack's is £10. So I'm going to tick that and move on to statement 4, which is that the burger is 30% more expensive at Jack's than Ben's. So 30% more expensive. Now we're missing 2 columns, so we want to know if the burger is this column or if the burger is this column. Now already we're looking for a column where the price on the left is going to be higher than the price on the right, and it can't be this one here because the price on the left is £5 less than the price on the right, so that contradicts the statement. So we know it's not that one, therefore the burger is going to have to be in the second row. And if we increase the £9 at Ben's Cafe by 30%, that gives us £12. So we know that the burger at Jack's Diner is £12. And that leaves one remaining column, and that will be for the pasta. So then we're going to move on to the fifth statement, which is that the pasta is more expensive at Ben's and the price difference is £5. Well, we can already see that already because it's calculated for us. We don't know the cost of the chicken at Ben's Cafe, and there is insufficient information in the passage to conclude what that is. So that leads me to think we can already answer the question. So let's have a bash. So is the pizza the most expensive thing at Jack's Diner? No, it isn't. The burger is more expensive, the pasta is more expensive, and the wraps are extortionate. So we know it's not that. Buying the pizza and burger is cheaper at Ben's Cafe. Let's have a look. At Ben's Cafe, for a pizza and a burger, you're looking at £17, whereas for a pizza and a burger at Jack's Diner, it is £22. So actually, we know that one must be true. So without even going through options C and D, we already know that the answer is B. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the third section we're going to be doing today, and that is quantitative reasoning. Now, with quantitative reasoning, you have approximately 40 seconds to answer every single question, and this is the most time-pressured section of the UCAT exam. Now, a lot of people freak out about this section, including myself, but rest assured, all you need to do is be able to pass Maths GCSE and you will be absolutely fine. The knowledge does not go beyond that. What you need to do for this section is make sure you familiarise yourself with basic mental arithmetic and basic formulas. So things like changes in percentages, speed equals distance divided by time equations, areas of shapes, all the things like that. If you can nail the basics, you will do really, really well in this section. Now let's have a go at a random question I've picked out of quantitative reasoning. Now in front of me I can see that we have a graph, we have a speed time graph, which is a classic. They love to use that in the UCAT exam, and it's measuring the speed travelled by a quad bike on a length of track for the first minute of travel. Okay, interesting. So I can see already time is in seconds and speed is not specified, but that is something to keep in mind because they do love to catch you out with units on this section. So the question is asking, what was the total distance travelled by the quad bike in the interval in which it travelled at a constant speed? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my graph and see where it travelled at constant speed, and I can see that was between 40 and 50 seconds here. So it's asking me what was the total distance travelled by the quad bike. So if we think about our equation, we've got speed equals distance divided by time. That means when we rearrange this, distance will equal speed times time. So it should be fairly simple to plug the numbers in. So the distance, which we don't know, equals the speed, which if we look is 30, times the time. So we're going to look at the interval here. It's 10 seconds. So that's going to be times 10, and that will give us 300 meters. E. As simple as that. Now let's move on to another question from the same question stem. So now we're being asked, what was the acceleration between 20 seconds and the time the quad bike reached its top speed? So let's have a look at our graph. So we're going to zoom in and circle 20 seconds here. And then we're going to have a look at when it reached its top speed. So that's going to be over here. So that's going to be at 40 seconds. So to work out our acceleration, we need to recall the formula for acceleration, which is a change in the speed divided by the change in time. So if we have a look, we're being told we need to consider the time as being 20 seconds and then the time at which it reached its top speed. So we know that is going to be at 40 seconds. So already we know that the change in time is going to be 20 seconds because we're going from 20 to 40 seconds. Now we're going to look at the change in speed. So that is going to be the first speed here, which is approximately 15, and the top speed over here, which we already know as being 30. So that means the acceleration is going to be the change in speed, which was 15, divided by the change in time, which was 20 seconds. Now when we work that out, it is going to be 0.75 meters per second squared. Now, another thing to remember in the UCAT exam for quantitative reasoning is that you cannot use a real life calculator. You'll be using an online calculator, and so whenever you're practicing, do make sure you familiarise yourself with how to use that, because it is a bit more laborious than using a normal calculator. Okay, so now let's move on to the fourth section of the UCAT exam, our final section for today's video, and that is abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning is an extremely challenging section that is comprised of 4 different question types, but the main skill you need for this section is to be able to identify a rule that pertains to the shapes in front of you. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through every single question type with you today, but I'm going to go through 2 different types for you. So without further ado, let's get on with the section. So for abstract reasoning, you're looking at around 13 to 14 seconds per question, which makes this a very time pressured section. Some patterns are pretty easy to correctly identify straight away, and some are a lot more challenging. So as with every single section of the UCAT exam, you have to get good at triaging your questions and knowing when to move on. So in front of me here is a type 1 style question from the abstract reasoning section, and in these questions you have a set A and a set B in front of you, and you have to figure out what the rule is for set A and set B and decide whether the test shape in front of you belongs to either one of them or neither of them. Now your rules are going to be related, so if the rule is pertaining to the number of circles in set A, then the rule in B might be pertaining to the number of squares, for example. So it's always going to be a similar rule, and it's going to be a related rule and not something completely different. So the way in which I suggest you approach abstract reasoning questions, especially when it comes to type 1 and type 4 style questions, is to utilise a mnemonic. So the one that I really like to utilise is called scans. So S stands for the shape, so looking at what type of shape is in front of you. C stands for colour, so it might be something to do with the colour of the circles or the colour of the squares. A stands for arrangement and angles. N stands for number, so it could be the number of sides, the number of lines of symmetry. And then S stands for the size of the shape or the symmetry of the shape. And so what I like to do is when I'm going through these questions, I just quickly think about this in my mind. So if we have a look at the question in front of us, we have quite a lot going on. Another tip I have when trying to decipher the pattern is look at the simplest boxes within the set. So for set A, I might choose to look at this one here, and then for set B, I might choose to look at this one here. That is because every single box in set A and every single box in set B will follow the same rule, but there's just way less going on. And in abstract reasoning, you will often get shapes which have nothing to do with the rule, and we call those distractor shapes. So I'm going to have a look and use my mnemonic. So for S, I'm looking for shape. So do I think the pattern has anything to do with the shape? I don't think it does, because looking at the colouring of the different shapes, they are not really consistent. We have a black heart here, we have a black triangle over here, and then if I look in set B, it's also quite random, so I don't think it has anything to do with the shape. Do I think it has something to do with the colour? I definitely do, because I'm seeing a lot of black shapes and a lot of white shapes. So I'm going to see if anything has to do with the colour. So in set A, the black shapes are immediately jumping out at me. So I'm going to have a think and see if that has anything to do with it. So immediately I can see in every single box in set A, we have one black shape. So I'm thinking already set A equals 1 times black shape. Do we have one black shape in set B? No, we don't, because we've got 2 here, then we've got 1 here, so it's probably not to do with the black shapes. We've got none here, so I'm thinking that's probably not the rule in set B. Could it be to do with the number of white shapes? Well, if I have a look, we've got 2 white shapes here, we've got 2 white shapes here, 2 white shapes here, 2 white shapes here, 2 white shapes here, and 2 white shapes here. So for set B, I'm thinking that the rule might be that there are 2 white shapes in every box. So then if I come back over to the question here, I can see that there are 3 white shapes and no black shapes. So that leads me to think that the answer is going to be neither. Now we're going to move on to a type 3 type question. These are often a lot easier than your type 1 and type 4 questions, so let's have a go at it. So we've got one shape is to this as this is to blank. So I need to find out what the relationship is between these two first. So I'm going to write down my mnemonic again, just so I can show you how I use it. In your exam, you'll be so quick at this by the point of taking your examination that you probably won't have to write it down. But let's have a think. So already what's jumping out to me is the fact that we have a number of different circles here, and then we have some intersecting lines over here. So already I'm going to jump down to the N of my scans because I think it might have to do with the number of intersections. We've got 5 dots in the first test shape here, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intersecting lines. So if we're using that rule, and I'm pretty confident that would be the rule, because whenever you have overlapping lines, you'll start to learn, you just jump to certain conclusions about the pattern, so it's probably to do with the number of intersections. So if I count the number of test circles in this shape over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 intersecting regions. So to complete the statement and to complete the series, I need to look for the test shape with 9 intersecting regions. So already I can see it's not going to be C, it's not going to be D because that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So not that one. Let's move on up. I'm going to count the number in B. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is going to be the correct answer here. We have 9 dots over here, so we have 9 intersecting regions over here. So that was me answering various questions across 4 sections of the UCAT exam. Do remember there's also the additional situational judgment section which comes at the tail end of the exam, and we've made a video talking all about that section, so do make sure to check it out. If you did enjoy this video and learned some tips from it, do let us know if you'd like to see more of these style of videos. I'd be happy to be under pressure and answer some more questions for you guys. Let me know how you're getting on with your UCAT prep, and do also remember to check out our crash course and masterclass. I'll leave the links in the description below. That is all for today, and I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye!